Hey guys, Kev here, and I'm going to do my full review on the Skelton Bladeworks Tuya collaboration Caladan. So, this is a different knife for me. That's kind of the big takeaway I have on this one is it's totally different than anything I normally would review or get into the channel, honestly, be interested in. The fact that Jim Skelton is the designer and the company behind it, makes it to where I wanted to check it out because I really like Jim. And he has a really specific taste in knives, but it's a very good taste, if that makes sense. He knows what makes a knife good. So it really made me curious as to, how he executed one of his designs, if that makes sense. So that was one reason I really wanted to check it out. He also sent this my way, which is awesome. But I was going to buy one. I asked how much would it be, pick one up. And he's like, no, I'm going to send you one. And I was like, okay, cool. And he actually sent me two. One to pass around to some other channels. So that one's going around right now. Currently, as I record this, it is at Duty's Daggers. So check out Kevin Duty's channel if you'd like to see some more content on the Caladan. He has the, I believe it's the Purple Haze Fat Carbon version, the bolster lock. And I actually was able to choose between the two, and I chose this one. And I still don't know why I did that. I think mostly because this flipper tab is outrageously good. The detent on this one is just bananas. So I couldn't let that go. And then it's different for me. It's not the usual camo carbon fiber, belt satin blade that I usually go for. So I just thought it'd be kind of cool to try something different. And that's where we're at. And I got to say, I really like this knife. I am on the cusp of loving this knife. And I didn't see that coming. So let's get into it. Some notes on this guy. It's a 3 3/4 inch blade, so it's a big boy. Probably around 9 inches overall. I don't have... He sent me some information, but I'm a wing it type of guy. So let's call it right here. Yep, 3 3/4 cutting edge. A little bit more than that on the actual blade. So we're right at that mark, whatever that guy is called. And I'll add that up in a second. And then we have a 4 and whatever that mark is on the handle. So it is just an inch difference between the handle and the blade, and that is a good sign of good blade to handle ratio. So if we add that up, we have 3 and we have 4. That is 7, my friends. And then we have most of another inch, and then most of another inch. So let's count that as 2 more inches. That makes 9. And then we're going to subtract half an inch because 2 of these little guys makes a half an inch. So it's actually 8.5 inches. Damn, I did some math right there, baby. That's probably wrong, but I'm going to go with 8.5 inches and a little over 3 3/4 on the blade, which is cool. It's very thin, which I really like. We'll get that measurement here. You get, ow, motherfucker. Sorry, just like stab myself at the end of this thing. Welcome to the channel. All right, here we go. Let's see. No, you are wrong, sir. You are wrong. Okay, you have to be wrong. There's no way that this is that thick. What? What the fuck is this thing smoking? No way. All right, hold on. Let me measure it up here. 0.5. Even that is scarily thick. Let me just check, because I know for a fact the stout is 0.512 or something like that. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, must be the contouring then. Dude, yeah, you can see it bows out. Okay. Okay. Because it feels thin in the hand, honestly. It feels thin. It does not feel thick. And that 0.55 is kind of thick, honestly. Yeah, so it's basically half an inch, and then maybe even a little under, and then it just kind of bows out because of the contouring. Here is a size comparison for you if you guys want to see it next to the stout. There you go. 3.3 inches on the stout, 7 3/4 overall. So it's a pretty big knife, and for me, I don't really fucks with the big knives. You know, here's probably my biggest knife. The Evo, and even that is what, 3.5. So I do have a Caladan Bladeworks Ari, but it's being passed around, so can't use that. All right, so we've had enough measurements for today, I think. Blade stock's relatively on the thick side too. Let's do that one, and then I'll shut up. Then I'll shut up about that anyway. Measurements and whatnot. 0.15 on the stock. Is that right? Let's see. Up here they have 0.14, but the actual stock 0.145, something like that. So on the thicker side, but not brutal or anything. And it's a relatively tall blade and a relatively tall grind, so it comes down to a decent edge. Fuck. Here we go again. I can't help myself, guys. It's been a long day, by the way. Kid was an absolute pain in the ass today. It was fun. 21, 18, 22. So somewhere around 20 thousandths behind the edge, which is pretty good for a big knife like this. All right, aesthetics. I think it's really cool. I do. It's not going to be for everybody. It's got a little bit of a bird look to it, you know. When it's closed, it kind of has, to me, like a hook, like a bill of a bird, something like that. These things kind of remind me of like mini eggs, too. So, I don't know. I just have birds on the mind with this one. I love the curvature of the whole design, the way it goes from tip and then kind of swells up, dips down a little bit, and then comes... you know, and then hooks around like this. It just has some really cool lines to it, in my opinion. It's very comfortable in the hand, which we'll get to. But aesthetically, it's cool. You know, this, I believe, is the only version with a bead-blasted blade. I thought the Orange G10 was too, but the paperwork said only this one. This is S90V steel. So you can see right there, S90V, which is really cool. And it's something we're seeing more often, which is good. It's actually something we at Divo are trying to use on a couple of projects we have started. So it seems that a lot of people are starting to move to S90V, which is interesting, because then people will get sick of that, you know. But it has really good edge retention. Holds an edge for a hell of a long time. Not as tough as other steels like M390 or whatever, but... M390 is not even that tough, so, you know, I don't know. But I'll take the edge retention. This is like a 9 out of 10 on edge retention as far as I understand, which is cool. And it's still got, you know, decent corrosion resistance, which is good for me. I think S90V is a fantastic steel for the modern knife guy, in my opinion. Everybody's raving about MagnaCut. Well, over in China, they can't get MagnaCut for OEM stuff or whatever. So, you know, it is what it is. Plus, they would run it soft anyway, probably. This is probably at 60, 61, which is decent for S90V. Excuse me. So, yeah, I like the S90V on this. I think it's a really good choice. I think he mostly did it to be different because everything's in M390, and he just didn't want to do the same thing, which is very smart. You know, it's M390 fatigue at the moment, and I'm trying to stay away from it myself. We still haven't done anything in M390. We've used 20CV, which I actually think is somehow better, which is weird, but yeah, so I don't know. I dig the choice though. And yeah, aesthetically it's cool. It's got this really interesting fine pattern to the titanium. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's bead blasted, but it has this grid. You see that? See how it has like a grid pattern to it almost? Pretty cool shit. I like that. That's just kind of how it came out of the machine, I'm sure. And the bead blast is supposed to hide it. Maybe. But I like how that looks. It's really cool. And then here's your jigged titanium, I believe he's calling it. Has a faux bolster, which is cool. You obviously have satin hardware all around. And you have this pocket clip, which is contoured to match the scale, which is great. And then you have this relief cut, which is outside, which it doesn't really bug me unless it's a problem with the clip, which I haven't noticed. I have noticed one issue getting it in pocket I'll talk about, but not a big deal really. Yeah, so aesthetically I think it's really cool looking. The flipper tab is good. You can see my skin in there. It's really strong jimping, which is good. You have the logo on the pivot, SB for Skelton Bladeworks, and then you also have it right here. You have the Tuya logo because as far as I understand from Jim, he said Tuya helped a lot with some of the tweaks and stuff, and he felt like it should be a collab. And I don't know how that worked out financially, if they paid for half or they paid for the run. Maybe they offered him, that's my guess maybe, is they offered him something, you know, like we'll pay for the run and everything, you get, you know, X amount of units or something. I don't know. I'm sure he'd tell me if I asked, and I just didn't. But either way, it's a collaboration of some kind, which is cool. So ergonomically, very comfortable in the hand. I have very much enjoyed cutting with this, using this, carrying with it, carrying it, fidgeting with it, all that stuff. Just really good in the hand. You do have jimping back here, which is not very aggressive, but not soft either. It's right in the middle. It's fine. But I tend to land right here, which is past the jimping. So I think, you know, on a lot of knives, that's the case. They put jimping back here, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I just don't hold knives the way a lot of people do. I don't do this. You know, I kind of come up here and do this or do this. That's why I'm a big fan of Vox style jimping, which is like this. You see how he puts it down there? So when you choke up, you can get on there. Pinch grip, you can get on there. This doesn't have a choil, so I get it. But I don't know. Either way, I have no issue with the jimping. Just wanted to talk about the jimping. But yeah, it feels really good in the hand. You really only have the one grip. I mean, if you're at the gas station on a Friday night and somebody's fucking with your Slurpee, I mean, they're in trouble. Like, look at this thing. You know, Jim is definitely particular when it comes to knives being of tactical ability, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think he's actively designing it to be a killer, but like, he is making sure it could work in a tactical situation. And this thing could work in a tactical situation for two reasons. I have a perfect grip right here. I mean, I am locked in down here, and I can put my thumb like right here, hook it down here. It's a good, comfortable a landing spot if I do that. If I hold it this way, it's not, but I don't know why you do that. You want to come in like this, you know. But the other reason is you have this guard, basically. You know, the flipper tab is hidden in there. That was the primary function of this piece right here. You can see when it closes, this overhangs. A lot of people have said, what's that weird overhang on the bolster? Well, that's why. It's so when the blade's open, there's no flipper tab showing, which I think makes it look way cleaner. I love it. But it also acts as a finger guard. So if I were to stab something, my finger would hit here, most likely, and stay on the other side of the edge, which is nice. Now, the other thing is it's got a giant, you know, almost 4-inch blade that you will be wielding, which is, You know, it's like the Crocodile Dundee scene where it's like, that's not a knife. This is a knife. All right? This is a knife, guys. So, yeah, ergos are great. I love the ergos. We'll talk about my nitpicks at the end. I'll just hit those at the end. Because I do have some. I always have nitpicks, guys. I always have nitpicks, not nitpicks pliers. All right. Cutting. So I did open some boxes. I cut a little bit of cardboard. I actually used this quite a bit. I carried it for a week straight. I really enjoyed my time with this. I know that sounds weird, like a week. But honestly, there's a lot of knives that I don't even carry. I just do an overview. I barely carry. I'll put it in pocket and everything and make sure, you know, I'll test it, but I don't really even want to carry it. And then there's knives that I carry for a day, and I'm like, okay, this is good. You know what I mean? I got it. This I wanted to carry. This is one of the knives that I had to kind of get myself to review. Like right before this video, I was like, okay, Kev, you got to review the Caladan. And I'm like, you know, it sounded like I was talking to myself there. That didn't happen. But anyway, you know, I just was like, I could carry it another day or two and then review it. And I've done that already, like twice. So I finally was like, all right, I got to do the review. I want to get a video out there for Jim. And, you know, I want to do the video while it's fresh. And, but that's how much I like this knife, that I didn't want to do the review. It, you know, once I do a review, it kind of means the knife goes dormant because I just always have more knives coming in. Circle of Knife video is somewhere. I'll link it. But yeah, the cutting's good. It's relatively thin. We looked at the edge geometry, or we looked at the thickness behind the edge earlier. It's got a spear point-ish tip, very spear pointy. I think it's kind of a drop point, but you could call it a spear point. You know, it doesn't quite match, but like, and it's a little lower than the pivot, but it's basically a spear point. It works really well to get it under packaging tape and slice, get into the tape and slice, and then, you know, you can open your box. And that's what I do the most with knives, and it did that pretty damn good. It also cut cardboard really well. I did slice some cardboard with it. That was no problem. Tape and shit came right off with the knife shield, which is great. Highly recommend KPL Knife Shield. Use my code LeftyEDC at knifepivotlube.com. It not only protects your blade from rust and stuff, it also will remove gunk. And with the bead blast like this, I thought it was prudent to put Knife Shield on here because that's my one concern, is that I'll rust it. But I haven't really messed with S90V in a bead blast. I have a lot of experience with M390 in a bead blast, and that has never ended well for me in summer months, so we'll see. But yeah, the cutting I thought was really good. I don't think it's like some, you know, crazy, amazing slicer or anything like that, but I think it's a great EDC. And that's kind of the point here. You know, he wanted to make a fantastic EDC flipper. And I think he did that. So cutting's really good. Carry. The clip is one of those long, skinny milled clips. Not my favorite, because they tend to be kind of like loosey-goosey-ish. This has decent retention, but that's because I took it off and I bent it a little bit. So now it's got a lot of retention, which is great in pocket. I did mention earlier I had one gripe about the carry with the way the clip works. So when it goes into my pocket, for some reason it always catches like right here. And then I have to like give it a little twist or pop it this way and push, and then it'll go in. It's almost like it's catching on this lip right here is what I think is happening. So I'm sliding it in. I don't know if it's going to show us here. We can try. So I'm sliding it in. I get past the ramp, obviously. And then right about here, it kind of catches. And I think it's either it's catching on this ramp right here, or not on the relief cut, or maybe it's catching on this piece. I don't know. Something happens, and then I have to like give it a little tilt and pop it in. Yeah, I think it's that relief cut because you see it's caught right now. I can't get it in because it's stuck on that, and then it's getting through. So I don't know. It's something like that. End of the world? Nope. Just something I wanted to point out because I just have a routine now. When I put it in pocket, push, turn, and then pop the rest of the way. Yeah. It also is a little sharp right here. Quite sharp, honestly. But we'll hit that in our nitpicks because I do want to mention that. But the carry's good. I mean, for a knife this size, it honestly doesn't feel heavy. I know people have mentioned it being heavy. I think it's just people looking at the specs, though. It's not anybody who's owned one and saying, ooh, it's too heavy. Yeah, I think it's like 5 ounces, which for a knife this size makes sense to me. It is milled out on both sides where it can be milled out. And then, this is obviously the jig, has more milling. So maybe this version is lighter than others, but yeah, I had no issue with the weight. It carried really well in my pocket. So that's all I can really say about that. Before I do forget, though, this version is the only one with a frame lock. So the Jig Titanium is a full titanium frame lock version. All the other ones are bolster locks. So they have the bolster here, and they have an inlay or cover, whatever, of a different material, whether it be twill carbon fiber, purple carbon fiber, or purple haze. There's G10, just a bunch of stuff. So I want to mention that. But yeah, sounds are fantastic. One of my favorite things about the knife. Really pops on both ends, so she said. Yeah, I really, really enjoy the acoustics of this guy. There is no side to side. There is no up and down. When I got it, it was a bit of a shaker. I mean, I had to give it some shakes. Now it's still not like a full guillotine. If I could get my finger out of the way, it would be. I have to give it a couple of small shakes, but it's essentially drop shut. But it's not actually drop shut. It's just a super smooth closing action. I really enjoy it. The action / fidget factor. Let's talk about that, and then we'll hit those nitpicks. All right. So the detent on this is supreme. I mean, it honestly couldn't be better. If I put my finger on this, and I mean, there's just no failing it, and beyond that, it rockets out when I just break it. So imagine giving it just a little pull. It's crazy. The Purple Haze Fat Carbon one wasn't quite as strong. It was still no failing it, but it was a little bit, not soft, but softer than this. And honestly, I think 99% of people would prefer that, where this one is kind of like rip your finger off strong. But that's just the kind I like. Especially on a flipper only, I want nice, snappy, strong detent. But I will admit, there's been times where this has basically hurt my finger, which is a positive for me. So, but I think the bolster locks are a little bit more tuned to like perfect for most people, if that makes sense. He knew I would like this one. He even told me, he's like, you're going to love the jig tie. And I'm like, I'm not really a frame lock guy, but I got it. And I was like, oh, I get it. The detent. There is, the, frame lock pressure is a concern on this. So you can put, I can't really open it there. It makes it tougher to open. There we go. So, that's the thing, but that's how frame locks are. So, That's pretty normal. And I showed the closing action. I mean, it's solid. The bearings. So somebody measured them actually and gave me the specs. They are 6mm 3/64 ball bearings, which don't currently exist at Skiff. So there's really no need to take this apart. But that's the size, and I think Skiff will be making some because some other people have asked him. So fantastic knife. The action's wonderful. The ergos are wonderful. The cutting is wonderful. The carry I've really enjoyed. The overall aesthetic is fantastic. The materials are really good. The whole package here, the detent, I mean, it really is a fantastic offering from Jim. And I think for his first production folder, it's fantastic. He accomplished what he was going for. And then I didn't even mention the price 25 minutes in. These start at $250. This version right here, $250, and that goes up to $285. So you don't even break $300 on this. And nowadays, with these materials and somebody else's design like this, $300 is like the minimum. So being $50 under that is pretty incredible. So, you know, that's something to note for sure. And these are actually available, I think. Currently they are. Hopefully by the time I film this and get it out, maybe they'll be sold out. But if not, and you want one, you can check Tuya's website, which I believe is Tuya Knife USA. Sorry, TuyaKnifeUS.com. I'll link it down below. There's also Jim, you can message directly, I believe, through Instagram or email. I'll put what I can down below. And you can hit him up directly and see what he has left, or he can direct you to Tuya or whatever, right? If you have questions, Jim is open to chat. So let's talk about the nitpicks, the negatives I have on the knife. Because I have some, but I think they don't amount to, huge complaint or anything. But here we go. There are some sharp edges. So the end of the clip is a bit sharp. I noticed the purple haze one was a bit sharper than this one, but this one's pretty dang sharp. Now, all of these edges I'm talking about, you could probably fix yourself with just sandpaper or just knock it down real quick. But I want to note it from factory. That's sharp. And then the lock bar is sharp, like right here. Now, I want to say that every knife is like this. Like the Jaegers I've all had, they all are sharp up here. It's just a detail that not many people hit because you're not gripping that when you use it. It's not really anything that's going to hurt you. Same with the clip. You know, the way it's contoured and everything, you never actually feel that point. So it doesn't actually matter in practice, but it does have that little bit of a sharp edge. And this is also a little bit sharp. The edges of the relief cuts are a little bit sharp. And another thing to note is at the $250 price point, you might get a little less on the fit and finish end compared to something that's $400. So that's another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about those sharp corners. I'm trying to get my dead skin out of the freaking flipper tab because it's just building up in there. Which, I don't know if that's an issue really, but it's a little bit of a pet peeve for me, having to clean out jimping relatively frequently, Peñas tend to have that too. So, but yeah, so that's a nitpick, the sharp corners. I don't know if I mentioned, this is a positive. The lock bar access is absolutely fantastic. It honestly doesn't get better than this lock bar access. Look at that. I mean, you have tons of room in there, scalloped area to get your thumb in. I mean, there's no question of whether this needs more lock bar access or whatever. It is literally perfect on that front. T6s. So all of these body screws are T6s, which is a bit unfortunate in 2023. Now, I will state that we have a knife. So I'm just tightening these that feel a little loose. On our knife, the Lush here, I actually talked to Concept, the OEM, because this screw, and this screw, and the insert screw are T6s, and there's one screw underneath the scale, the inlay that's holding the frame together, that's a T6. I asked them about it, and I said, listen, we need T8s all around. Like, we can't have T6s. And they basically said, well, we can't use a T8 in this area right here. It's not big enough for that. This is not big enough. We'd have to make the holes bigger, which would be ugly. And then they said, we also have all of the T6s, and we'd have to make them or whatever for the T8. So I think it's also a resource thing in some cases where, you know, OEMs, they even said, Concept said, like, yeah, our customers have said the same thing about T6s. So I think they want to get to a point where they're doing mostly T8, but they're trying to clear out their inventory of T6. So I kind of understand that. While it kind of is like, you know, I'm a paying customer, I should get what I want. I kind of get it. And it's not the end of the world that it's T6s. So yeah, it kind of sucks because I wish it was T8, but I get it at the same time. It's probably just, you know, it is what it is. But these are all T6, same with this guy. This is a T8. Another little gripe is this is actually a spinning barrel in here, and the tooling is obviously only on one side. So to take this apart, you're going to need something to press against this that's rubber or whatever. You could push it into a mat and then get it or whatever, but that's unfortunate that it's not, you know, that's not D-shaped captive or anything like that, or just tooled on both sides. They also did Loctite them quite a bit, so that can make it even more frustrating when you have a spinning barrel situation there. What I would recommend if anybody wants to take this apart, which I would say don't, because again, we don't even have skips that could fit in here, so there's really no point, honestly. Unless you just wanted to really clean your knife, I get it, but you could just blow it out or whatever. But what I would say is heat it up however you want. Put it in boiling water, hit it with a torch. I use, when I say torch, I mean like one of these, you know, lighters. You can use soldering iron, whatever. You just hit this side so it melts the Loctite. You could try this side. I don't know if it could mess up the laser. And then that'll melt the Loctite. And then you just press this side into something rubber. Give it a lot of pressure, and then you could probably get it out easy. I have a buddy who took his apart, didn't have a problem. So should be fine. But, you know, not ideal, I'll say. Centering is dead nuts. My other nitpick on it is the tip is damn close to popping out of the scale. So you'll see here, the tip is right there. I mean, it is just tucked in there. That's what she said. And if I come around like this, I go right, oh, there, I got it. Right there, I'm hitting it. Like my skin is getting caught. But if you just kind of do this, it's not getting caught. So I don't think you'd actually have a problem if you like ran your finger in there. Now, I'm not going to test it. And you should have the blade against your seam or whatever, so it should be fine. I have carried this for a week and have not had any issue with that. So I just want to point that out. But I do wish they had tucked it down just a touch more. It would have been very nice of them to do that. They also could have brought the handle back a little bit while I'm sitting here being a nitpicker. I love the lanyard hole situation. And the jig tie looks cool. So, yeah, overall, I think it's a fantastic knife. I really do. I am very glad that I got to check one out, because I normally would look at something like this and be like, that's not for me. You know, flipper only, big knife, fuck that. But you know, because it's Jim, I did check it out. I was able to check it out, and I'm really glad because I love this knife. It's fantastic. So I highly recommend it. I think if you like big knives, and you cannot lie, if you're a tactical knife guy, if you're a flipper guy, I think you'll really like it, you know. And that's where I'm at with it. So I think I covered everything I wanted to. Lockup is good. I'll note on the purple one, the lockup was a little later than this. Still wasn't bad, but it was a little later than this. This frame lock is a little bit earlier lockup. Again, not too early. Centering, dead on nuts. We talked about that. Spine centering is pretty good as well. It does look like it gets over to this side quite a bit, but I mean, the tip is centered and it's not rubbing or anything. So, you know, yeah, really cool. I am very excited to see what Jim does next. I will be on the lookout, and this has kind of opened my eyes to want to try different stuff, you know, not just always go for the sheep's foot, bolster lock, liner lock, you know, small knife. So, yeah. All right, that's it. I'm going to leave it there. You guys let me know what you think. Do you guys like this one? Did you pick one up? Do you want to pick one up? What are your thoughts? And big shout out to Jim. Thank you for letting me check this guy out. He gave me this, so this is staying in the collection. Proudly, this will stay in the collection. And that purple one's going to get passed around. So stay tuned. Check out Duty's Daggers. I know he's on the list for it. I know Casey from Knives Fast is on the list. I know Puerto Rican with a Knife is on the list. There's a bunch of guys. I can't remember everybody. So that's it. I love you guys. Hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And I will catch you later.